Today, we're going to talk some Arizona basketball. We are going to talk some Arizona football. We're going to talk about basically everything that pertains to Arizona on campus, but we're going to talk some Arizona women's basketball as well. But let's get started here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we got a lot to get to this show, like I talked about. All right, we talked previously about the Arizona-Washington game, but you know what? This is a basketball town, so let's talk some Arizona men's basketball. All right, the schedule is out. A lot of people are talking about, what do you think about, the Arizona basketball schedule? And here's what I said, is that I think Tommy Lloyd is operating in good faith here because, quite frankly, Sean Miller wasn't when it came to scheduling. Sean Miller would basically do like one game and then he would just throw his hands up and say, well, we can't get anybody else. I think you're going to see a drastically different approach from Tommy Lloyd. And I'm not surprised at all that started out with a Duke home and home. I mean, that's what you want to see. And I know a lot of Arizona fans have been asking for that for a long time. And this was done right. Like back in the day, you had a lot of people that would, would say, well, why don't you just do the home and away with Duke? Well, Lute Olson basically said, yeah, no, I'm good on that one. And honestly, when you're a program like Arizona, you don't do that. Again, Duke's a different entity, but at the same time, you hold your own. So, and what's fun about that too is that first game in Cameron Indoor Stadium is going to be a team in Arizona that's going to be absolutely loaded. So you look at that 2023-24 roster, and you could essentially have almost everybody back from this team. Plus, you're bringing in a top 5 class. Now there could be guys that could be gone, but let's just look at that possible roster for a second that could be going into Cameron Indoor Stadium. You've got Reese that could easily still be here, and if not, he would be overseas. You've got Pella Larson. Then you've got Julius Tabelis, who could still be here if he wants. Umar Bello, Henry Vasar. You've got guys coming in, obviously, Kylan Boswell, KJ Lewis, all kinds of stuff. And what's exciting about it, too, is that going to see, I think, even more like that, to be honest with you, because Tommy Lloyd, and when you're at Gonzaga, you know that you have to schedule teams, and it's not easy to schedule teams because you don't play in a good conference, obviously. So you have to go above and beyond to be able to schedule the best teams that you possibly can. And I think you're going to see some of that with Tommy Lloyd. Also, with the way that the Pac-10 is currently shaked out, you're not going to have great teams because, again, the LA schools are going to be out of there in no time flat. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that with Tommy Lloyd scheduling some really, really good teams right there. And it's a good look all the way around for Arizona. As far as this out-of-conference schedule, you got Arizona playing Maui, which is going to be which is always a big deal. I remember growing up when Arizona would play in Maui, and I had a neighbor who kind of important, and they would travel with the team and get to go to Maui. I was always jealous of it, but you know what? I couldn't go. That's all right with me. But so far, I think Arizona's basketball schedule is going to be very good. Now, moving over to some Arizona women's basketball, which we promised that we would talk about. This Adia Barnes squad this year is loaded. Now, I think a lot of, at least from my perspective, I thought that Arizona, I think this can be her most talented team because there's a lot of different aspects that are going for this squad, right? I mean, you watched them last year, and yes, they were good, but you can tell that they just missed that extra little sizzle that Arie McDonald brought. And should we really be surprised by that? Because Arie McDonald is probably the best player in school history. She was the best player in the country that year. And so you just don't replace players like that. Now, last year, I think, was a little bit of a bridge year. Here, I think you get back to being a top 5 to 10 team in the country, and we're going to break down the reasons why. Up front, you look Cate Reese, leading returning scorer. at about 6'1", obviously had off-season shoulder surgery, but she should be good to go. Again, I haven't seen her play up close, but I know that they have high expectations for her this year. She is a linchpin of everything that they want to do there because, again, one thing that Arizona did struggle at last year was scoring the basketball. And that's one thing that you've got to be able to do. You got to be able to score the basketball. And right now, she's going to be one of the people that is right at the forefront of that. Then up next to her, you've got some different options. You've got Lauren Ware. You've got Maya Najee. Now, talked with the great PJ Brown the other day, and PJ talked about how Maya Najee is the real deal. You get a lot of players that come in and you wonder, are they really that good? Is it going to take a couple years? Well, by all accounts, Maya Najee is here, and Maya Najee is going to be a problem from day one. And I don't think that should really surprise anybody, to be honest with you. But she's a player that you watch her, and she just looks different, kind of player that the Connecticuts are used to getting, the Tennessees are used to getting, those type of schools right there. And so I don't know if she starts, but she's going to play a lot immediately. And that kind of brings us into Lauren Ware right there. Lauren Ware at about 6'3" or 4", another highly ranked player. She's a junior this year. She spent a lot of time refiguring her body, getting into better physical shape, becoming more explosive. So I think you're going to see a Lauren Ware. I think you're going to see a Maya Najee who could possibly play next to each other. And I think, if you can get two players that can possibly, fit next to each other, that's a good little thing to have right there. Now, so Arizona can definitely go big right there. You've got those three players right there kind of anchoring the front court. Now, looking at the guard position, then we'll get to the wings. You've got Shayna Pellington, which I think a lot of people have forgotten about. And just a little bit to rehash, Shayna Pellington was one of Arizona's best players during the entire run to the national championship game a while back. She was pretty much kind of that second best player at times where she was able to create some offense. But the one thing that she hasn't been able to do, she's never been a great shooter, and they've had to rework her form. I'm excited to see what her form does look like now. But again, they've had to rework it. And if she can just become a passable shooter, then you've got a point guard there that can really steady things. And then lining up next to her, you're probably going to have a Jay LaVille. Now, I think she might be the most impactful newcomer this entire offseason because one thing, and we've talked about it, what did Arizona struggle at doing last year? Score the basketball. Well, if you watched Arizona against ASU, you know that Jay LaVille can score the basketball, and she did that in a big way against the University of Arizona. And she, I think, is being brought in to be that person that just puts the ball in the basket. I know that sounds trite and easy, but you know what? Sometimes it's just not that simple. It's not as easy as it sounds. She's that player that I think you're going to have a lot of freedom to be able to make plays out there, and we'll see if she can do it. But she might not score the 17 per game that she scored last year, but there's every reason to believe that she could be even more efficient in that regard. So Jay LaVille is a big-time difference maker for this squad. And then you look at some of the other guards right there. You've obviously got the two very highly rated freshmen, Paris Clark, McDonald's All-American, Kaylin Gilbert. I've always thought with them that they're going to be impactful players, but it's going to maybe take them to where at this point next year, they are totally different players, and they are the epitome of difference makers right there. That's where, I think you look at it and you know that, okay, Arizona's going to be able to score. They got depth. I don't know exactly what their roles are this year because you've got really talented players in front of them. But I think by this time next year, we're talking about players that could be flirting with kind of that all Pac-12 potential right there. That's where, that's what I think that both of them can do. Now, I do, when it comes to the other transfer, you got Lauren Fields from Oklahoma State. Lauren Fields is a great story because honestly, she was one of the first people to jump on with this Arizona team. And again, she averaged about 15 points per game, but her story is a little bit like Jay LaVille's in that I think she's going to be, it's going to take her a little bit of time, but I think that she might not score 15 per game, but she's also going to be more efficient. And that's what you're looking for. You join a team that is more talented, you want to see the efficiency numbers go up. And right now, I think you're going to see those efficiency numbers go up with this Arizona Wildcat squad. Then one we haven't talked about a ton is Lamaya Hilton. As PJ was talking about, Lamaya Hilton is kind of the overlooked player amongst all the newcomers because she obviously played in Canada. But she came in, and I noticed at media day that physically she looks the part. She looks like she can come in. She looks like she can step in and play immediately. And we'll find out. But, as Adia Barnes has always said, if you don't play defense for me, then you're not going to play. And that's what I think Lamaya Hilton, if she's going to play this year, that's going to be her role, is going to be kind of that defensive spark off the bench. And you got some other players like that as well. Different skill sets. Maddie Connor, I think, is going to be one of the better shooters in the conference. You can really tell that Adia Barnes likes Maddie Connor, what she brings to the table, what she brings to the fold. And I think with Helena Playo, another PJ Brown there, she's kind of that jack of all trades in that she can play a little point guard. She can play a little bit off. She can pass. She can do a lot of everything. And if you 3-on-3s this summer, you could tell that she definitely has a little bit of skill all the way around right there. So we'll find out what she can do, but I would imagine she's going to play a lot of minutes this year. And then one other player to certainly remember is Asmarie Martinez. Obviously, another transfer in here. She's about 6'1", 6'2", really good rebounder, can score, can also play defense. She, to me, is going to be that jack of all trades, the player that, does a little scoring, does a little bit of rebounding, can defend at a high level. All of that stuff, I think that she can pretty much do. So that's kind of where, this roster is. You don't have really any questions from a skill physicality perspective because you've got shooting, you've got scoring, you've got size, you've got defense. It's just going to be on Adia Barnes to be able to fit all these pieces together. And if she fits all these pieces together, then you're looking at one of the best teams in the country. And I expect this team to be one of the best teams in the country. It's going to take a little bit of time for sure to be able to just get all these pieces together, to be able to get everybody kind of on the same page. But if that happens, then watch out, because I think this team actually has more top to bottom talent than the team that did play in the national championship game. And right now, Arizona women's basketball is not going anywhere. Adia Barnes is going to be bringing in maybe the best class in the country. She's already got 2 top 10 players committed. She's got a top 15 to top 20 point guard and Jada Williams, who already signed a huge NIL. LeBron James has been to multiple of her games. If LeBron could come to a couple Arizona women's basketball games, that would obviously be a really, really good look for Arizona women's basketball as well. And there's a couple other players that could certainly be coming down the pipeline as well. But right now, this is the time that you buy stock in Arizona women's basketball. There's no better time to do it, quite frankly. Now, speaking of that, let me tell you about the Get Upside app. All right. Tired of cringing at the pump? Now it's time to start saving some money right here. So I was at the Fry's on First and Grant. Always taking your safety into your hands a little bit there. But what I was excited about was, all right, I don't really care what's going to happen to me right here. I'm going to save money here. And I used the Get Upside app, and it came up to saving me about $5. Who doesn't want to save $5 at the pump with all of this money, all of this expensive, these expensive gas prices? This is where it is. So here's what you do. You download the free Upside app and use promo code LOCKED to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 for more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using promo code LOCKED. Again, I did this at Grant and First. You can do this wherever you want, but it's going to save you some money. And again, hop in there, make that one happen. All right. We've got about 5 minutes left. We'll be right back with you. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, now we talked about some Arizona men's basketball. We talked about some Arizona women's basketball. Now we're going to talk a little bit Arizona football going forward right here. Now, one thing that we do know about this Arizona football team is the defense stinks. Offensively, you get a lot of kudos from Jedd Fisch gets a lot of kudos for revamping this roster the way that he has. But defensively, that's going to be the next target here. You've got to get better players in there. And I don't need you to be bringing in LeVar Arringtons and All-Americans, but players that can be capable Pac-12 Power 5 starters. I don't need all conference guys, but players that are solid across the board. If that can happen, then I think you're looking at a team that can pretty much look and pencil in probably 5, 6, 77 wins. Because if this defense is good, the offense is going to be fine. We've talked about that ad nauseum. Jaden DeLora, Jacob Cowing, those guys, Jacob Cowing might not be back, but then you still got Dorian Singer, you still got T-Mac, you still got a lot of different options. The one thing, though, you don't have is you have a ton on the defensive side. And whether you lose Hunter Echols, you lose Jalen Harris, you're going to be losing some players. You're going to lose Jerry Roberts. You've got to be able to get some players that, again, not even really difference makers. Excuse me. Not even difference makers, but just capable players that can be. If I'm going to tell you that Arizona can be the 8th best defense in the conference next year, we'll take it. Because for so many years, it's been the 12th best defense out of 12 teams. That can't be the case because if you're looking to win games and not in a fluky way, the defense just has to be better. There's really no other way around it. So Jedd Fisch is really going to, we're going to find out what he can do in the portal because he's shown that he's had some big hits. Jaden DeLora was a big hit. Jacob Cowing was a big hit. Hunter Echols, big hit. DJ Williams, can go on and on down the list. But there were obviously some misses as well. Gunnar Maldonado isn't very good. Drake Anderson is meh. So those are the guys that you need. You can't miss on players. You've got to be able to get defensive players in here that can really cause, that can make you put a competent product on the field, for lack of a better term. Now, let's see here. What do we got? All right, one other thing too. And as Locked On keeps growing, here's the deal. Nissan has now hopped in here. From LinkedIn to Nissan, Locked On is growing by leaps and bounds, over 1 million downloads. All right, so here's the deal. Our partners at Nissan have worked with us to create a new segment across the Locked On College Network, thrilling moments where we highlight the most exciting play from the team's weekend game or throughout the history of Arizona. This week's thrilling moment from the Arizona Wildcats is the leap by the lake. I remember where I was. This team was that was Arizona's best team in school history. They went 12-1. Leap by the lake, where Ortiz Jenkins ran in and flipped into the end zone and won. That really spearheaded Arizona to have the best season in school history. That moment brought to you by Nissan. And again, this segment has been inspired by the thrilling new designs featured across Nissan's new lineup of vehicles. Pursue what thrills in the all-new Frontier, Armada, or Pathfinder today, available now at nissanusa.com. All right, I'm going to come back with you, and we're going to wrap everything up and get you ready for Wednesday. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, so big show today. We talked Arizona men's basketball, Arizona women's basketball. We talked some football. Tomorrow, we're going to get into a little bit of the recruiting, angles that are prevalent throughout, Arizona basketball and Arizona football right now. So we'll definitely keep you in the loop on all of that. But everybody out there, you have a great day. Again, really appreciate you listening in. Tomorrow, we're going to talk a little Cody Williams. We're going to talk some KJ Lewis, Carter Bryant, a lot of the basketball names that you need to know on the recruiting trail. And we're going to talk a little bit of Arizona football as well, because Jedd Fisch, as we know, recruits at a higher level than Kevin Sumlin and doesn't bring in just straight OKGs. So we'll find that out. But as always, everybody out there, you have a great rest of your Tuesday, and get ready for an action-packed recruiting segment tomorrow, because all the questions that you want, we're going to be answering here on Locked On Wildcats. Again, have a great Wednesday. We will